In Goodfellas, we all know the reason why Tommy DeSimone was killed. It's pretty obvious he did it, and I'm talking about the murder of Billy Batts with the help of Jimmy Conway. Not only did Tommy kill a made guy, which was a huge no-no in the mafia, he was also reckless and out of control. His killing of a young kid named Spider, who was a nobody, showed that nobody could control him and his ego. To kill a made guy, you had to have permission from his boss, which Tommy did not. Tommy killing Billy Batts, who he knew was untouchable, takes place in Goodfellas, the unforgettable 1990 mafia movie by Martin Scorsese and based on Nicholas Pileggi's book Wise Guy, an account of the real lives of mob associates from the Lucchese crime family back in the 70s and 80s. The cast features Joe Pesci as Tommy DeVito, Robert De Niro as Jimmy Conway, Paul Sorvino as their boss, Paulie Cicero, with Ray Liotta as Henry Hill and Lorraine Bracco as his wife Karen. The murder takes place the night of Billy's welcome home party at Henry's joint. Billy, surrounded by his friends, insults Tommy DeVito. Tommy flies into a rage, but is escorted out of the lounge. When Billy goes missing, it's easy to conclude that his murder would be pinned on Tommy. When Billy's friends witness the confrontation between the two, and as Tommy walks back into the lounge later that night, two club patrons pass him on their way out. So, based on the movie, it would be pretty easy to blame Tommy for the murder. But in truth, is it really that obvious? In the movie, Billy wasn't afraid of Tommy. Even with Tommy in full rage mode, Billy knows he was untouchable because Billy was a made guy. It's easy to believe that none of them saw Tommy as a threat, so when Billy goes missing, it is believable that Billy's friends wouldn't have suspected Tommy. This is supported later in the movie when Paulie asks Henry if he knows anything about Batts' murder, because he says Billy's crew has been busting his balls about it. So, if no one from Billy's crew had any idea that Tommy killed their man, then someone must have ratted him out. So, this leads to the real question of this video. Who was the snitch that ratted out Tommy? Well, in real life, the snitch was Paulie, and in Goodfellas, subtle hints are scattered all throughout pointing to the real-life snitch. Here is the most difficult hint to pick up on during the movie. I know how to talk to her, especially to her. This line is a part of a conversation that occurs in the apartment of Henry's mistress, Janice. It's a conversation that I would not think twice about, but this is the only hint in the movie about any particular event that may have helped tip the scales against Tommy DeSimone. You might be thinking, what does this line have to do with anything? Well, let's break it down. What you probably didn't pick up on from that line is that Paulie is having an affair with Karen. The marriage between Karen and Henry was falling apart, so Henry stays at his mistress Janice's apartment for weeks, refusing to go back home to his wife. Paulie and Jimmy drop by the apartment, and Paulie tells Henry that Karen came to him. They tell Henry he's got to go back to his wife. Paulie points out that they are not animals here, so divorce is out of the question, and that it is important to keep up appearances. This is when Paulie tells Henry that he knows exactly how to talk to Henry's wife. What Paulie is explaining here are the mafia rules. In the mob, you are not to disrespect the wife or girl of another mobster, so we know that Karen confided in Paulie. Well, that's not all this scene is about. The entire conversation seems so inconsequential at first, until you realize exactly what Paulie is saying. This scene hints at Paulie's interest in taking care of Karen personally, while he sends Henry off to Florida with Jimmy. That is what I initially thought. However, I was dead wrong. In reality, Paulie was having an affair with Karen while Henry was in prison. So, you have to wonder what else Karen could have confided in Paulie. In Goodfellas, the only significant thing Karen witnessed was seeing Henry hosing down the trunk of his car. She complains about the stench. You might be thinking, so what if they were having an affair? How does that relate to Tommy's snitch? Well, remember Karen's account of the other mafia wives? It was at Mickey's hostess party, she says, where one wife claimed that her husband would kill any man who got frisky with her. What is not shown in the movie is that during Paulie's real-life affair with Karen, Tommy attempted to rape her. And if there's one thing the movie makes very clear about gangsters, it's that they'll kill you for hurting their girl, which is exactly what Henry threatens to do to Karen's neighbor in the movie after beating him bloody. Even if Karen didn't tell Paulie anything significant, Tommy himself could have slipped up. In Goodfellas, Henry complains to Tommy and says, "You and your bleeping mouth." This scene takes place as they sit in their car forgetting about getting away from the fire. Then, there's Tommy telling everyone that digging a hole to hide Spider's body won't be the first time he's done it. He goes on and on about how it isn't the first time. I think this refers to an unsanctioned murder committed by the real-life Tommy of Foxy Girothe, a good friend of John Gotti. So, not only has Tommy assaulted a mobster's wife, but he may have also killed a friend of another mob boss. To be fair, Tommy's rambling on about having buried a body before is barely proof that he broke another mafia rule. But then let's go back to Billy Batts. Remember, the night of the party, we know that Batts was a button man. Tommy accuses Billy of being a fake tough guy who simply bought his button later. As the lounge empties out, we see Billy talking business to Jimmy, explaining how he's got mouths to feed. In real life, Batts was part of the Gambino crime family and was another close friend of John Gotti. The reason all this is relevant is because, as I have mentioned before, you can't kill a made guy. He's untouchable without the green light from his boss. When Tommy gets whacked, Jimmy is told over the phone that there was nothing anyone could do about it. Henry describes this later as some real greaseball shit, something he and Jimmy just had to accept. This is exactly what Henry was worried about when Tommy killed Batts. The look on his face when all Tommy thought about was getting blood on his floor. Tommy wasn't apologetic about killing Batts. Instead, he was worried about Ray Liotta's floor. I mean, the guy just killed a Gambino button man. Tommy was simply out of control. He wasn't just reckless, he was a hothead too, and a real pain in the ass. And apparently Paulie saw this as a liability, and in real life it was another good reason to eliminate him. This must have been what real life Paulie thought when Tommy slipped up during the Lufthansa heist in 1978. According to eyewitness accounts, Tommy took his ski mask off in front of the hostages. This posed as a risk for Jimmy, whom Paulie valued as a good earner. The movie doesn't show the actual heist and Tommy's mistake, but it does give us hints about Tommy's bad attitude. At Paulie's house, Henry is given some advice from Paulie. The most important is not to deal drugs. But then, Paulie tells Henry to watch out for Jimmy, that he's a good earner, but he takes too many chances, and also that Tommy is a good kid, but that he's crazy, a cowboy who's got too much to prove. Paulie says he's given everyone a warning, and in the mob, a warning isn't always spoken. Henry explains that a warning is when one of your friends gets whacked. There's another conversation Paulie has, one with the restaurant owner Sonny, where in this scene, Tommy is described as a bad seed. Tommy has refused to pay his tab and roughed up Sonny. So, Sonny is upset and had to sit down with Paulie to air his grievance, as he is scared for his life. Sonny complains that he might have to go on the lam. In fact, he fears he's going to wind up missing and that they're going to find him in the back of a car somewhere in the weeds. Exasperated with Sonny's endless complaining, Paulie finally says to him, "I'd like to help you out now. Look, what do you want from me? What am I gonna do? Tommy's a bad kid. He's a bad seed. What am I supposed to do, shoot him?" The conversation comes to a sudden stop when Sonny replies, "Yeah, that wouldn't be such a bad idea."